Hey everyone, today we're going to be talking about the weapon which is the bow, and it's a very cool ranged weapon because it's effective at both close range and long distances, and it offers a ton of high mobility when you're actually in a hunt. You've got so many dodges going on, and it's just a great way to evade and deal high amounts of damage very quickly. It's one of my favorite weapons all time, and I just really have been enjoying this weapon, which is why I'm creating this tutorial today. So first off, the bow is a weapon that uses stamina for most of its actions. Every time you fire a shot, you can see there, the stamina depletes. Every time you dodge, it depletes. Most of your actions are going to be dodging and firing arrows, so your stamina is going to be used up very quickly. So you are going to be very dependent on your stamina, which means you're going to have to actually learn to manage this. Now the bow is also a weapon which is pretty cool because it fires several different types of attacks, and this is based on what you actually want to do. For example, we can do a piercer, so we can use the dragon piercer combo, which looks like this. Pretty cool. We can then even do spread shots, which we can just do by tapping circle on a PS5 controller, which again is very cool for being up close. We also have like explosive tracer rounds, which we can just fire and they'll trace a monster, and then all your arrows will figure out where that tracer is. So we can just show you here for an example. So we fire that there. All of our arrows, regardless, will then go to that tracer, which is very cool to deal high amounts of damage. And we even have one called an arc shot, which is like this. You can charge it up, and you'll see it rains arrows out of the sky, putting tracers on the monster, which you can then track as well. Your regular arrows won't, but if you use your focus ability, it will track those to do high amounts of damage, which is pretty cool. Like I say, there are a number of different moves, including close range options, and the spread shots are pretty damn good up close. For example, we can just keep hitting the monster here, and you can see we can turn that into a power volley. And we can even go into what is called 1,000 dragons. So that's when you start charging up the weapon, and then you press triangle and circle at the same time. It fires a ton of arrows up close as a burst, which is amazing. So what you might have noticed with the bow is when you fire the bow once, it will fire an arrow. But if you fire it in succession twice, you'll see that it actually fires 2 arrows on the second shot. However, if you do it for a third time, it will then actually shoot 3 arrows on the third shot, so that's how you build up your charges there. You can just do that by firing normally, because every shot will build up to 3 and then reset. However, if you hold down the charge bar, you'll see the dots on the side. Once it's fully charged, it will just shoot 3 arrows at once. This will obviously drain your stamina quicker, but it is more powerful than obviously just tapping the shoot button, so you do want to be using that more often. Now, another thing I just want to mention about the charge shots is that mainly with the bow, you'll be trying to stick to that third charge. So when you fire an arrow, you can actually then dodge, and it will keep on firing 3 arrows at once, which is pretty nice. Now, in the bottom right of the screen, you'll see where it says PS coating, and above that we have a blue bar with like 3 arrows on it. This is called the trick arrow gauge, and it's an additional resource that you're going to have to actually manage when it comes to using the bow. So this bar is actually spent when you use coatings or tracers. For example, this is a tracer. When you put a tracer on the thing, and your arrows will follow it. And then when you apply a coating, which is a status effect or just a power coating, something like that, and you'll just tap triangle to apply those, and the bar will go down. So as you can see, we've now used up 2 of these sets. So the way to charge that back up is just by firing shots, and even charging up the bow will also charge that up for you very quickly, as you can see there. So you can just hold on to that. But charging up your bow will deplete stamina, so just be aware of that. Ideally, you will be trying to fill up your trick arrow gauge when using the bow, and also making sure you don't deplete your stamina fully, because you do still need to dodge monster attacks to survive. And that's how you're going to get the most out of this. So if you actually press L1 to select all your items, you can also see that you can change your coatings, which is pretty cool. We'll go into coatings in more detail in a moment. But you can change these here for free whenever you like. So you can go to poison coating and then just tap triangle, and then you'll change that to whatever the coatings you have available on your bow at the time. Now, we did mention the tracers, and the tracers are pretty good because, as I say, you hold down the shoot button and press square. You'll then put a tracer arrow, and this will allow any arrows you fire to literally trace the monster without you even having to aim at it, which is just absolutely wonderful. You get to do high amounts of damage, and pretty easily for anyone using a controller too, because you're not always able to track the monster very quickly if it's moving fast. The Lollabarina, for example, is a monster that loves to jump around very quickly, so making sure you use these tracer rounds are actually a great way to deal damage. Now, we mentioned coatings before, as we showed an example, and there's actually 8 versions of coatings available in the game. In previous Monster Hunter games, the coatings were actually items that you needed to craft and store in your pouch. However, in Monster Hunter Wilds, they are now part of the actual weapon, and you use the trick arrow gauge to refill your selected coatings, which is pretty cool. This actually means that you get an infinite amount of them and you don't have to worry about crafting for the bow, which is just a lovely aspect of just being able to play it freely and more fun. But like I say, there are 8 different coatings for the weapon. The first one that we'll talk about is power, which just increases your arrow damage. Then we have close range, which will reduce the range of your bow, but it does increase your damage. And then you have pierce, which just allows you to pierce the monster. Poison, which again just inflicts poison, obviously. Paralysis just paralyzes the monster. Sleep will just put the monster to sleep, and blast will also just inflict blast damage, and then you have exhaust, which will inflict stun and exhaust, which is pretty helpful. What you'll find is that not every bow has access to every coating. Certain elemental weapons will have certain coatings and have other coatings, so you'll need to pay attention to which bow you're using depending on the coating you actually want. Now, one thing I want to mention is that when a monster has a wound like this, you can actually use the focus strike, and instead of tracking just the tracer rounds you put on or your arc shot, it will actually track on wounds as well. So when you hit a wound with this, you'll automatically get a free dragon piercer, which is pretty good because this will then break the wounds and also drop more parts to help you farm the monsters. So one more thing I want to mention with the bow is that when you're out of range, the weapon will actually tell you that. Now, if we fire at the monster when out of range, you'll see that our arrow doesn't reach. However, there are situations where it might be slightly closer and you'll actually start to hit, but out of range means you've got to lose a lot of damage. Then when you get closer, it will then pop up to be a bit bigger, and this might as well basically just be out of range because you're still doing that little bit of damage. But when you move closer, it will finally hit orange, and this is when you're in optimal range of using the weapon. As you can see there, instead of doing 2 damage, we're doing 13 with just a basic arrow shot, so you want to make sure that your reticle is always orange when you're fighting monsters. Now, when it comes to using the bow, there are a number of different combos that you can actually use to improve damage when fighting different monsters. And there's a ton of really fun ones too. For example, we have the power volley and tracer combo where you'll hold R2, press square to get a tracer shot. Once you fired that, you'll dodge, and then you'll start using power shot and power volley, then quick shot, power shot, and another power volley as well for damage. And you can even change that into a nice focus fire and then fire onto the monster, which will deal a nice bit of damage. If you can hit your tracer to a weak spot, you're going to be doing a lot of damage to that specific weak shot as well, especially when you're using things like the power volley because you're sending so many arrows into the weakest part of the monster, so it's a very nice way of dealing a high amount of damage. Now, when a monster is knocked down, I like to use what people call the arc shot combo. This is one of my favorites in the game. So what you want to do is, like when the monster's down, like I said, you want to just then go into your arc shot, which is this big circle. Once you've done that, you'll then dodge, and you'll then start spamming into your power volley, and then you'll want to start putting the tracer arcs. As you can see there on the side, we have a wound as well, so I'll pop that, and we get the free dragon piercer too, which is pretty cool. And then as well, with another one, if the monster's still down or not moving, we can then do that whole combo once again, and get the most out of the wounds that we've created. Just be aware though that if you target a wound, you probably will destroy it, but sometimes more wounds appear so you can get a free dragon piercer from the next focus fire. Now, the next combo we're going to talk about is called the dash dancing combo, and this is pretty much your bread and butter when it comes to using the bow. So what you'll do is you'll charge up to level 3 with your arrows, you'll fire, dodge, shoot, and then you'll go into power shot, dodge, shoot, and then power shot again, and you'll just keep doing this for as much stamina as you have to get the most out of the bow. You'll get a lot of dodges, and you'll get a lot of damage too. Now, the nice thing is as well, if a monster is attacking you, and you time the dodge perfectly, your stamina will actually refill fully, which allows you to keep doing this dash dancing combo, which is just absolutely incredible. Like I say, you want to make sure you get it to level 3 first, then dash, shoot, circle, dash, shoot, circle, and you deal a high amount of damage while hopefully refilling your stamina when the monster attacks you. Now, there is another combo that you can do while trying to get your stamina back up. It's not the best one, but it is available. You're going to just apply your tracer shot, then just keep firing arrows while your stamina is refilling. As you can see, it doesn't really use that much stamina, but you can just go into it and then obviously do another focus fire or whatever if there's a weak spot. So basically, it's just a nice way to keep doing damage while also making sure you're not actually using too much stamina. Now, we did talk about being in critical distance already, so I'm not going to go over that again for the advanced tips. However, you do want to make sure that it's always orange, just as a reminder to keep in your brain when you're actually fighting monsters. Now, obviously, we've already spoken about managing stamina as well, But there is a number of different ways you can do this. For example, you can actually eat a meal, which will then give you more stamina and health as well, so you can keep doing your combos more easily. You can even apply different armor skills and decorations. For example, Constitution, Stamina Surge. They're really great for managing stamina while using the bow. So with people using the bow, Constitution, Stamina Surge is basically a must-have on somewhere on your build. But we'll go into more details with that shortly. You want to make sure you keep on dashing as well to charge up your attacks to the level 3 for the actual shots, so you can get the most damage out of that too. Now, I've already mentioned that if you perfectly dodge a monster's attack, it will refill your stamina, but one thing it will actually do as well as that, which I forgot to mention before, is it will refill your trick gauge, which is pretty cool as well, so you'll be able to get more tracer shots and more coatings for your bow. Another thing you want to pay attention to as well is when you're using these arc shots, it's a fantastic way to just apply more tracers to deal more damage, but it's also great at stunning the monster once there are wounds created. For example, we can then just go into a focus fire, pop the wounds, and usually with a monster that will give us a dragon piercer and then create more wounds as well, which is just absolutely incredible. Now, I know with the bow you tend to keep your distance a little bit with the monsters. However, you can actually still mount monsters with the bow. This is something you might not even know about because it's so rare that you get this close to a monster. But if you're approaching a monster on your sacred, you can then jump off and press triangle to do an attack, and sometimes you'll actually mount the monster, which is pretty cool. You want to then try to create a wound while on the monster, and once you've done that, hold R1 to basically do another focus fire attack, and you'll deal a high amount of damage to that wound, and even destroy it for extra loot and high damage. Plus, it just looks absolutely badass, so doing that is going to be fantastic. When it comes to armor and decorations for the bow, you're really looking for any type of armor that will give you skills based on Constitution and Stamina Surge, because this will allow you to deal more damage overall, because you won't be depleting your stamina bar as quickly due to the actual effects of these skills. You can just go through your armor and find skills that do that. As you get towards late game, what you might do though is actually find armor that gives you a bit of burst, because burst is very, very strong on the bow, especially since it gives you a lot of elemental damage when you get it to level 5. Weakness exploit is also very good when it comes to using the bow, so you want to make sure you have Constitution, Stamina Surge, Burst, and Weakness exploit. Then, when it comes to decorations, again, we're looking for anything that will then put in more Constitution if you haven't got that to level 5. Same with Stamina Surge, Burst, and Weakness exploit. When it comes to the weapon itself, however, decorations you're going to be looking for is you want to match the element of your weapon, because the bow is a very elemental heavy weapon, so you're going to be swapping around the bows you're using depending on the monster you're fighting against. You want to look for something that will add a bit of crit, and I've seen some people even using the spread decoration as well, because that will actually increase the damage of your bow's spread ammo and bow's power shots as well, which is pretty cool. So now that we've actually spoken about the bow, let's go on a hunt so I can actually show you an example of all this in play. We're going to be hunting down a high rank Chatacabra, so this should be pretty easy, and you can actually get a good idea of how to use the bow. So, like I say, we're going to tap the bow, then jump up to the Chatacabra, try to press triangle on it, and see if we can get ourselves a mount. Obviously, we didn't, unfortunately, get the mount, and that's okay, because that sometimes happens. But if you do somehow get the mount, then you're going to be great, because you're going to look like a badass, but not always getting it. So you can see here, we're trying to play as many traces as we can. Then we're just going to make sure we charge up our attacks, then do the charging dash combo, which is cool. We can then put traces on and then spam these while the monster's kind of down for a second. Make sure we dodge. I should have tried to actually dodge the attack more better there so we could actually get more stamina up, but sometimes it's like that. Oh, there we go. And now we've got the traces up too, so we can get some more damage. And boom. Pop this in through the monster, because the piercer is very, very strong when it comes to monsters. Yeah, there we go. Dodge. Circle, circle. Dodge again. I need to still time the dodges, but there we go. When the tongue comes out too with the Chatacabras, you can quickly get a hit on it for more damage, which is nice. There are certain monsters that when they do attacks will actually create a weak spot. For example, they'll just show you the tongue, which is nice. Nope. Should have dodged that one. I was hoping that we'd hit the weak spot quicker, because sometimes when you hit the weak spot, the monster will actually go down as well, which is very nice. You can see the weak spot still on the back there too, so we need to target that. Let's load that up. Boom. I love the bow against the Chatacabra. You absolutely just bully this frog, and it's just amazing. He's coming for us. He's a very angry boy right now. Alright, I'm going to dodge that. Oop. There we go. That's what a perfect dodge looks like. Again, we can just target the weak spots too if we wanted to, and then just fire straight through that, and that gives us more parts as well, which is very nice because, like I say, it sometimes creates more weak spots. I'm trying to get as many arrows into the Chupacabra as possible right now while he's just like up and about moving. Nope, I timed that wrong completely, but that's fine. So fire, and there we go. Now that he's down on the ground, this will allow us to get more traces in him. There we go, and we can fire, boom, hit those weak spots for more damage. Just, the bow is such a fun weapon. Honestly, guys, if you haven't had a chance to try out the bow yet, please do. It's such a fun weapon. He's a very angry frog right now. Ooh, crap. There we go. Gonna actually have to heal. Too busy focusing on just messing up the frog that I actually forgot to pay attention to my health. Like I say, if you can get some constitution and stamina surge on your build as well, you'll actually just be able to keep on going. I unfortunately just haven't built for that. I've got weakness exploits and burst on right now, so I need to start putting some more decorations in my armor for that stamina. I was hoping he had a weak spot there too, but he did not. He was ready for me. And you can see here as well, because of the elemental damage we're doing, the Chupacabra is getting absolutely messed up. We haven't been applying any coatings as well, so I should really be doing that, just to keep you guys in the loop of making sure you apply the traces and the coatings. Again, don't do what I did either. I've come into this without actually having any food buffs, which is probably like one of the worst things you can do in Monster Hunter Wilds. You want to make sure you're definitely eating your food in this game too, just to get the most out of your weapons. Right, here we go. We can actually get a nice wombo combo of damage on him. And we've got him down on the ground too, so we'll just do that. Combo, circle, circle. Dash, circle, and then because he's already weak and he's got some more wounds, we can just easily pop those. Do a bit more damage to him. And there we go, now he's on the ground again, so we can just do it once again. He's just not having a great time. The frog's getting absolutely bullied. But this is exactly what we want when it comes to fighting monsters. We want to make sure they're getting bullied, making sure they don't have a good time. Oh, bless him. He's almost dead. Maybe we can actually get a really cool mount here as well. I'm going to try to go for a mount when the frog stops moving, so we can hopefully get like a really, really cool action scene for you guys. Because honestly, the mount attack for the bow is one of the coolest things I've done in this game. So again, we'll whip out the bow. We'll jump, and nope, we've missed it again, I'm afraid. But yeah, fighting the Chupacabra is one of my favorite actual monsters to train with weapons on. It's just a really great way if you don't want to sit in the training range. And there we go. As you can see, the Chupacabra is now dead. And as you can see, that was under 6 minutes as well, fighting the high rank Chupacabra, which is not bad at all. We also got some advanced armor spheres, which I'm actually a big fan of. Well guys, so that's it for this video. I hope you found this weapon tutorial actually useful, and if you did, please click the like button below and subscribe for more Monster Hunter Wilds videos in the future. Let me know what weapon you want to see next, because I'm loving the fact that we can learn so many cool weapons and see all the cool hints online to create the best tutorial that I can. I also just want to make you aware that we also have a public Discord where I'm trying to build up a community of Monster Hunter Wilds players, so it'd be awesome if you guys want to be a part of that. Please feel free to join with the link in the description of this video. And I will hopefully see you in the next video, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.